How's it going, everyone? Today we have a story time of a girl who says, if you don't date me, you're fat phobic, and threatens to cancel the kid and get him in trouble for not falling in love with her. This is an absolutely insane story that I know you'll enjoy, so sit back, relax, subscribe if you're new, and let's jump into it. So we're going to call the subscriber who submitted this story Tommy. So anyways, Tommy is in the 11th grade, right? This is his sophomore year of high school. And this all starts one day when one of Tommy's friends, who is a girl, and we don't really need to give her a name, because if I give out too many names, I'll switch them up and you guys will get confused, almost as confused as I'll be, right? So Tommy had a friend who was a girl, and Tommy's friend had a girl, and we'll call this girl Kate, right? Very standard name I use all the time. So Tommy's friend, who's a girl, comes up to him and says, "Hey, Tommy." And Tommy's like, "How's it going?" And she's like, "Hey, Tommy, like, are you single right now?" And Tommy was like, whoa, because for a second he was wondering if his friend, who's a girl, was into him. But he kind of snapped out of it because they've known each other for like 10 years. He's like, all right, she's definitely not going to ask me this. And he's like, yeah, like, what's up? And she's like, oh, well, you know, I might have someone for you. I think you guys would be a perfect match. And Tommy was a little bit suspicious. I'm not going to lie, bro. Like, I'll just keep it $1.50. If someone says I have someone for you, if they're the one searching and trying to find you someone, sometimes it won't exactly be someone that will be, I don't know, I don't know. I'm trying not to sound too mean, but sometimes if there's someone that you're really like into, normally you're the one who has to reach out and go and get them, right? And normally when things are given to you, it's never as good. Take that however you want, right? So sure enough, Tommy's like, oh, well, I'm interested, as Tommy was, you know, looking for some, I don't know. He's like, he wants some fun in his life. He can't just be a bot doing SATs all day, right? He wants some fun in his life. So sure enough, Tommy's like, yeah, like, Kate, what's up? Who's your friend? And Kate's like, oh, well, I have a friend and I think you'd really like her. And so Tommy's like, oh, can you tell me who? And she's like, no. So she doesn't tell Tommy that it's Kate. And she's like, you know what? I want to put you guys on a random blind date at lunch tomorrow. Like, wouldn't that be so fun? And Tommy's like, well, can't you just tell me who it is? I feel like this would be a lot easier, and I'd feel a lot more comfortable if I just knew who it was. And so Tommy's friend, okay, there might be a reason why, you know, she's putting them on a blind date. To put it bluntly, Kate was not the most beautiful woman ever, and that's okay. You don't need to hit every societal standard. But Tommy's friend kind of knew that if she told Tommy who it was, that just objectively, there was a decent chance that Tommy was just going to say no. And she didn't want that, right? She wanted her friend to have a chance. And she was probably thinking, well, he shouldn't be judging a book by its cover anyways. I'm just going to put them on a date, or I'm going to put them on a date and she'll like pull the weight with how amazing of a person she is, right? I don't know, so Tommy eventually, reluctantly, but eventually did agree to the situation, as he felt it was a little bit weird, but was up for something interesting to happen in his life. So yeah, eventually Tommy agreed to it. Tommy's friend, who's a girl, was like, oh, that's awesome, I'm so excited, like, okay, come to lunch tomorrow, come right away, and I'll, like, you know, I'll set the whole thing up. So Tommy was kind of interested. I don't know. Tommy kind of knew in the back of his head, if it was like the prettiest, most wanted girl in his class, that there's a decent chance that, you know, his friend probably wouldn't have been so reluctant to say who it was. And I'm not trying to be mean here. I'm just trying to say objectively how it goes in the world. So yeah, sure enough, Tommy was both excited, but also kind of nervous because, you know, he was on the edge of saying yes. Like, he kind of wanted to say yes, but he also kind of wanted to say no. But he kind of opted towards yes because he's like, you know what? I need some more excitement in my life anyways. I might as well say yes. You know what I mean? So yeah, sure enough, Tommy is like, okay, whatever. And the next day comes around, and he's in class right before lunch. And this is where Tommy starts to get really nervous. He's like, oh, God, like, I already know this is not going to go well. I really should have vetted who it was. I really should have pressed harder. Tommy's now thinking to himself, well, maybe if I, you know, pressed a little bit harder and tried a little bit harder, that maybe I would actually get to know who it was, and then I could make more of at least maybe not make a snap decision, but at least have a bit more context going into the whole thing. So yeah, sure enough, the bell rang, and Tommy's like, all right, well, however this goes is however this goes. If it's someone I'm not interested in, I can at least have a nice conversation with them. And then just respectfully not ask for another date. which is exactly how you should go about it. If you ever go on a date and you're not feeling it, you shouldn't be a jerk right away. You shouldn't like stand up and be like, I gotta go, you're ugly, bleh, or something like that. Or even if they're not the greatest person or you guys are just not matching for some reason, maybe just finish out the date, maybe just finish out being like having a conversation with them, something like that. So sure enough, Tommy gets there and he's waiting and he gets into the lunchroom and that's when his friend comes up to him and says, okay, like, I'm going to bring you over to the table now. And Tommy's like so uncomfortable and just kind of not really nervous, but just more like uncomfortable with the whole situation. He just feels really weird. And he's kind of regretting doing the whole thing. But at this point, it's really too late to back out. I mean, I guess it's never too late to back out technically, but Tommy would just feel bad and would kind of feel like, well, I promised my friend one thing and she promised her friend. And it's not really that big of a deal, so I might as well go along with it anyways. So anyways, Tommy's brought over, and that's when he realized that the person that, he's going on a date with, he actually knows who she is. We're just going to call her Kate because that's the name we gave her earlier, and that's a name I use commonly. So anyways, Tommy sits down at the table, and I think Tommy's like, I think I've had class with you before. And Kate looks at him and says, yeah, I think we've had class before, whatever, right? So Tommy's friend is like, all right, I'm going to leave you two to it. So Tommy's like, okay, immediately, just being straight up, just being honest, Tommy's not that interested. But he's like, you know what, I'm here. I'm not going to get up and leave. I'm not going to be rude. I might as well finish out a nice conversation. Might as well just, get to meet someone new, even if I may not have romantic interest, which is totally fine. I think you should be allowed, to have your preferences. I think you should be allowed to pick that way. I don't think it's a good idea, though, to be mean to anyone. So yeah, sure enough, Tommy was like, talking with her. He'd ask, okay, what are you interested in? How's like college prep going? Because at least at their school, there was a very intense college environment. Like Tommy was already spending quite a bit of his weekends studying for the SAT, even though he was only a sophomore and wouldn't be taking it till his junior and senior years. So sure enough, they talked a little bit about that. They talked about the class that they had together, and lunch at their school was kind of short. So the girl is like, so do you want to go on another date? And here's the thing. Tommy didn't necessarily mess up here, but he also wasn't the greatest here because this was a tough situation because he didn't want to. I almost feel like this is the type of thing where on TV shows, it's like you point the camera at someone and you're like, do you want to go on a date with me? And they're like, haha, yeah, because it's on camera, but then afterwards they say no. I feel like this is almost like a similar situation. I mean, obviously besides the camera, because Tommy is like at the date, right? He's like, So he's kind of like, I don't know, like, I got a lot of stuff to do with SATs, like, I got a lot of stuff to do, like, college prep, and, I do play basketball, league on the weekend, I'm kind of busy. And so this is normally the thing you would say to kind of tell someone politely that you don't want to do anything with them. You just say that you're busy, and it's a lot nicer than just saying no, right? That's totally fine. However, right, it's not the clearest, because maybe you are just genuinely busy. Maybe you're busy at a certain period and you'll be free at another, and you're just letting them know that. But maybe it means that they don't want to have anything to do with you. It's very difficult to tell sometimes. So the girl, Kate, is like, okay, well, let me know when you're free and we'll go on a date then. And Tommy's like, okay. And basically Tommy's plan at this point was to just kind of like, I don't know, let things fizzle out, just to kind of be like, I'll get back to you, never get back to you. That's actually a decent strategy if you ever want to get out of something. Just be like, I mean, it's better to like tell them straight up so that they can start looking. You know what? You should figure out how you want to do it on your own, man. I'm not your mom. But anyways, so sure enough, afterwards, Tommy's friend comes up and is like, oh my God, isn't she amazing? Weren't you guys so good together? And Tommy's like, yeah, she was fun to talk to. And she's like, all right, when's the next date going to be? Tommy's like, well, I don't know. I don't know if I was feeling it like that. I was definitely feeling really good friend vibes. But, I don't know if I was feeling relationship vibes. And Tommy's friend's like, oh, are you sure? Like, she's really cool, though. And Tommy's like, yeah, I agree. I think she is really cool, which is why I'd like to be friends with her. But I'm just not feeling the vibes of a relationship. Guys and girls, if you don't want to go on a date with someone, you don't need to give a justification for it. Sometimes you just don't want to, and that's good enough. So anyways, right, eventually, about a week later, so the thing is, during the day, Tommy doesn't see, like, Kate, right? He just doesn't have any class with her anymore. The class they had together that they shared, they had it last year. So Tommy doesn't see her during the day anymore. And so about a week later, after not seeing her, he gets a text from a random number. And the number said, "So when are you free?" Question mark. And Tommy made the assumption that this was the girl, and he was correct. And he's like, "Oh, is this Kate?" Question mark. And she's like, "Yes. Like, I just wanted to know when you're free." And so at this point, Tommy is like, "Oh, God." Because it must have been, the thing was, too, that Kate must have gotten his number from their mutual friend, which is kind of on the mutual friend's kind of like, I don't know. Because the mutual friend was informed by Tommy that he just simply wasn't interested. So I feel like the mutual friend here, even though I'm sure she's just trying to like not be a part of the drama, shouldn't have given up Tommy's number. Should have maybe given her the wrong number and been like, "Oops." Or maybe should have just straight up said, "You know, I think he's more interested in just being friends." I mean, that's really what a good friend would do. So Tommy's close girlfriend maybe was not the greatest friend to either of them in this situation. So that's when Tommy says, "Hey, look, I don't know if I'm trying to date anyone right now. I had pretty good vibes on the date, though, so if you want to be friends, I'm cool with that." So after Tommy sends that, like, you know, when you're texting someone and the 3 little bubbles pop up, and then they go away, and then they pop up and they go away. Basically, someone's typing, then they're not typing, then they're typing, then they're not typing. That's basically what's going on here. And Tommy gets no immediate response. 1 hour later, he gets a response. And this is where things start to go really south. This is where the milk starts to curdle. This is where things get bad. So basically, Tommy isn't on his phone for a little bit. And he checks his phone, and he sees he gets a one missed message notification from this girl. And you might be thinking, oh, how bad can it be? It's only one missed message notification. This message was as long as War and Peace. This message was as long as the entire dictionary read out from front to back. This message was as long as the side effects on any pharmaceutical drug it seems like you get in those commercials. You know, those commercials where it's like, oh, puppy dog, happy, and it's like, you will die, have diarrhea, explode, have depression. I'm like, yo, chill, bro. Like, I'm not trying to take that now. Yeah, so it was a long text message is basically what I'm trying to say. And to summarize it, it basically said, TLDR, date me or you're fat phobic and I will expose you to everybody and get your reputation ruined. Let me just say that trying to convince someone to date you in the first place, don't go around begging. Begging is a very unattractive thing. If anything, you know, you want to make the dynamic seem as if you're the one in demand and they want you, even if it low-key is the other way around. But the worst thing you can possibly do, begging is bad, but it's not terrible. What is terrible is threatening someone into a relationship with you. You really think that you'll have a stable, grounded, well-formed relationship if it's based off a threat? I don't think so. So the thing is, when Tommy sees this, he immediately just screenshots the long message, or actually probably has to take 2 screenshots because the message was just so big. Couldn't even fit into one home screen, which just shows you how long this message truly was, right? He sends a screenshot to his friend, the mutual friend that set them up in the first place, and was like, what do I do here? And the mutual friend is like, oh my God, like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'll talk to her. So a couple hours go by, and Tommy's getting a little bit, like, worried. He's a little bit scared. Scared is the secret word of the day. If you've made it this far into the video, comment scared down below. And while you're in the comment section, check out the pinned comment, as there's a link to my Spotify page in which you can listen to these stories as podcasts on Spotify, as well as a link to my other channel in which I tell stories on, like this channel, but I tell those from Reddit. The stories from here are from you guys, and the stories on the other channel are from Reddit. Make sure to subscribe to both my channels. I appreciate it. Anyways, so eventually a couple hours later, after getting, because like this whole time, Tommy's really nervous, he's scared, he's got a knot in his stomach, because he just knows, like, he doesn't want to be canceled by this girl. Because, you know, Kate was kind of cool in the conversation, but Tommy definitely got the vibes that she was, like, the Twitter user type. And I don't mean, like, the casual Twitter user. I mean the, I'm going to quote retweet you and cancel you type Twitter user. Yeah. So, Tommy didn't want this girl to cancel him, because even though it was kind of like, oh, if you don't date me, you're fat phobic, that's a very weak argument. Tommy had a feeling that she would at least be able to rile up a small but loud group of people that would agree with her out of like the 400 people that go to his school. If she even got 10 to like get really mad at him and make his life a living hell, like that would be bad enough. So a couple hours later, he gets a text back from his friend who set them up in the first place. And it's like, hey, I talked to Kate. I don't know how to tell you this, but she's really mad and she really is like not listening to what I'm saying. I'm trying to tell her that you're not trying to date anyone right now, and she says she doesn't want to hear it and that she knows the truth. Yeah, so the truth was Kate was a larger woman, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. In fact, some guys, that's their preference. Some guys, that's not their preference. That's literally just how preferences work. However, Kate was now basically pinpointing the rejection on the fact that she was a larger woman, and now decides that she's going to tell everyone that he is quote-unquote fat-phobic. Yeah, right? So sure enough, Tommy's a little bit worried about this. He's like, oh, geez, like, I don't need everyone at school being mad at me. So he goes in the next day, kind of expecting like picket fences, or not picket fences, like signs on picket fence poles or whatever with like protesting, and his whole locker to be spray painted, calling him like the worst person ever. Thankfully though, when he entered school, none of this happened. Yeah, so when he got to school, there was nothing like that at all, which was pretty cool. I mean, I don't think he really expected the entire school to protest him, but even one person being like, I heard you're really, like, discriminatory or something like that. I mean, that's pretty stressful enough, especially if it's over something so untrue and false, right? Like, but anyways, Kate eventually found him. She must have, like, looked up his, like, his school schedule or whatever, because at the school, like, you could look up someone's name in the directory and find out what their classes were, and I guess she just looked up his name, found out what his classes were, and basically stalked outside of his room. So eventually, Tommy gets out of class and basically gets jump scared by this girl. And she's like, I know why you didn't want to go on a date with me. Tommy's like, enlighten me. And she's like, you don't want to go on a date with me because you're fat-phobic, and that is the only reason why. And Tommy's like, well, I don't want to go on a date with anyone. Look, I'm probably not going to be dating anyone. I have a really busy schedule. I told you this before. I don't know how else to say it. I'm not dating you because I'm fat-phobic. I'm not dating you because I don't want to date anyone. You seem pretty cool when we were having our little conversation, but it seems like I misjudged you. And with that, like, the girl is literally standing there, almost speechless. And she's like, guys, this guy is fat-phobic. And, like, says it loud enough so that other people in not the high school, but the hallway, I guess in the high school too, but the people in the hallway would kind of stop and pay attention. And she's like, he doesn't want to go on a date with me because of my weight. And some of the people were like, whoa, like, dude, is that true? And, you know, at this point, Tommy's literally like, dude, like, I told her I don't want to go on a date with you, or I don't want to date you because I actually don't want to date anyone right now. I was I was really strongly encouraged, if not peer pressured, into a blindfolded date with someone, and I was like, sure, why not? And you seemed like a cool person when we hung out that time, but obviously not by what you're doing right here. I don't want to go on a date with anyone. The school is stressful. I mean, you know, you go to it. I've told you my schedule. I just don't have time. I don't think I have time to responsibly be anyone's boyfriend. It has nothing to do with you. That might have been a little bit of a lie, but Tommy definitely wanted to get the point across that he just didn't want to date her. So eventually the tides turned, and people in the hallway were starting to, like, kind of go to the girl, be like, hey, like, if he doesn't want to date you, you know, you should leave him alone. And she's like, are you guys, like, complicit in his fat phobia? And they're all like, what? No, he just doesn't want to date you, bro. Like, I don't think it's that deep.